שלום לכולם, כאן אורלי ברקימה, תוכנית השראה פרקטית מתל אביב. אני שמחה לארח כאן תוכנית נוספת חדשה בסדרה של ראיונות שאני עושה עם מדענים ואנשי רוח על הנושא של החיבור בין מדע ותודעה. ואיתי בתוכנית היום שני אורחים, האחד דוקטור קרישנה מדפה מהודו וארצות הברית, שהוא מדען, הולסטי, רוחני, הוא קורא לעצמו, שעושה ניסויים מדעיים כדי לבדוק את התודעה. ואיתי כמובן הבמאית ציפי רז, שבעצם הכירה אותי וחשפה אותי לכל הנושא הזה, דרך הסרט שלה שהיא עובדת עליו, שנקרא השדה, The One Field, השדה אחד, The One Field. ציפי היא במאית, היא עורכת מאוד מוכרת וידועה, עבדה הרבה מאוד שנים ברשות השידור, ועכשיו זה ככה פרויקט חייה, היא עוקבת ובקשר עם מדענים ואנשי רוח מכל העולם ועושה ניסויים. אז אנחנו עכשיו נעבור לאנגלית, ושמי כמובן אורלי ברקימה, למי שלא מכיר אותי, עיתונאית, מאמנת, מרצה, עוסקת בנושאים האלה באמת מתוך הרצון, התוכנית הזו מתוך הרצון להעלות את המודעות, ליצור איזשהו שיח שהוא לא ברמה שאנשים לא יכולים להבין אותו, באמת להוריד אותו למטה כדי שכולנו נהנה מהפירות של המדע החדש, שעכשיו בעצם משנה את כל החיים שלנו כאן ואת העתיד. אז אנחנו נעבור לאנגלית ואני אציג את קרישנה באנגלית. So, hello and welcome Dr. Krishna Madappa, and thank you very much for being with us. It's a really great pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you wholeheartedly. Shalom to you. And it is great gift that we are coming together and for you to initiate such a gathering indeed, because the implications have very far-reaching probabilities and possibilities.
We have to say many thanks to Tsipi Raz, who is the director of the One Field, who is really exploring this subject of science and consciousness for the last few years, and her movie is going to be broadcast, I hope, very soon, maybe this year. Right, Tsipi?
I hope. It's a question of money, you know.
Yeah, so maybe you know, because of the broadcast, you will get money to do it.
Yeah.
So, Krishna, you are one of the scientists that Tsipi interviewed in the movie, and I know that you are. I want to introduce you also in English. Dr. Krishna Madappa is the president of the Institute of Science, Spirituality, and Sustainability, who is based in Bטאוס, in New Mexico, and also in Bebngalore, India, which is where you are right now, right?
Yes, yes.
And you are an inner excellent coach, so it's very interesting for me to hear about what is inner excellent coach later, a holistic consultant, and you live both in India and in United States, right?
Correct, correct.
So I would like to hear from you first, maybe you can introduce yourself from the point of view, how come a boy who was born in the Andaman Islands in India, such and such years ago, get attracted to be a scientist and to explore consciousness? And I know you make experiments also in water, and what is your passion for this subject, and how did you get to it?
You know, it is very precise attribute, because when we look at how wisdom transmissions were conveyed by advanced civilizations, where the understanding that we are not just physical matter, we are interconnected to all systems in all dimensions. In the Vedas, as an example, during the gestation period of a child, the mother read, recited from Vedas, read, recited from the Gita. So these are vibration, these are harmonics.
So your mother, when she was pregnant with you, was reciting these mantras.
Yes, yes, because it is that interconnectedness towards the Vedic wisdom, Vedic science. It is about transmission of pure energy. So to address the question that you have presented, how is it that here is a little kid born in the Andaman Islands, a tiny little archipelago of islands on the Bay of Bengal, now here across the planet, from the US, now back in India. You see, ultimately what coheres here is when there is self-organizing characteristics that have been imprinted into the system, because we are vibration and frequency.
Yes.
As clearly conveyed by very notables in the fields of not only science of today over the last 200 years, but we see this as a fundamental basis, a fundamental premise to which all life is cohered towards.
So we are all energy. You know, once they used to say that we are a physical being having a spiritual experience, but now the new science is saying that we are spiritual beings, we are energy having a human experience.
Well, that will make it palatable and understandable. So just coming back to what you had addressed, how is it that here you are being placed, doing research and development in water? So these recitations of my mother, and she said, the moment she stopped reciting from the Rig Veda or from the Gita, this little baby used to kick her vehemently.
Mm.
So the moment she began to recite, the harmonics, the kicking stopped. Well, the evolution of the process, of course, it continues. And then in the dimensions, as you know, growing up, we were always connected with nature. Because the key words of my mother is the closer we are to nature, the closer we are to source.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
so how did you become a scientist? You could have been, you know, a spiritual man and have a community. Why go to science?
He is spiritual.
See, let's take the essence of this. What is we come? The source of us is light.
Okay.
The outer world reflects the nature of our inner world.
Yeah.
Today, we are just about, as in the kindergarten stage, being able to understand this through science. And dear Constantine has developed this technology of bioelectrography.
You're talking about Professor Konstantin Korotkov.
Professor Konstantin Korotkov.
Yeah,
has taken this, and which I will get to during how we first met. But here we are looking at the wholeness, because science, spirit, life has never been separate. In pre-colonial India, as an example, the civilization that permeated across this land was rich with science, with art, with great architecture, with understanding of vibration, frequency.
Yes,
so
it looks like, you know, it is old wisdom that today the scientists can prove. But until I think 10, 20 years ago, and also today, you know, when I interview pure scientists, the community of scientists is not, you know, the spiritual science is like a new science that is emerging in the last 20 years, because science and spiritualism were considered separate. Something happened in the universe in the last decades that they combine together and they complete each other, or they're, I don't know how but there is a bridge today. And 20, 30 years ago, science was something else and spiritualism was something else. So what happened? That this bridging
it's only starting. Even today, it's not, you know, the bridge is not so easy to say that science and spirituality is one, you know. Even today, there is a very nice webinar I saw with Professor Carlo Ventura that show how frequency change the field around the DNA. It's you know, it's really...
But the mainstream of the scientists are not yet in the place that you are, Krishna, right?
So here, dear Orly, is very interesting because we all know what a bell curve is. See, a bell curve, you have a low end, you have a high end, and you have a far end. Yes. And we can see this as evolution of any process. We can, if you take a simple example, if you went to a town or a village and you wanted to find out who were the tallest people, who were the shortest people, and who were those in super tall people, that would end up looking like a bell curve. The same thing addresses of human evolution too. And it's also like a bell curve where we see the process of the low end of the bell curve can be those who are still in very gross state of understanding of life. So which means not very sensitive to the fields of life. Because then you have the high end of the bell curve, and the high end of the bell curve, you will find folks who are educated, who have jobs, who run companies, and are able to do things from many, many spaces, have multiple houses, etc. And then you have those on the far end of the bell curve, would be like the Einsteins, the Gandhis, the Martin Luther Kings, the Teslas, right? And that was part of an evolution. Now you see that bell curve, that very same bell curve transitioning, because it is a determinant. And what is that determinant? That wave, which is time. So
you think there is something that is happening to humanity that is evolving faster in these last decades?
It is like we are riding on Mustangs, the grand wild Mustangs. You see, we look today, 1 week goes by and we say, where did that week go? But when we were growing up, 1 week was a long time.
Yes.
The space of 24 hours hasn't changed. So
yeah,
our
perception is changing.
So we now understand, we also know and begin to recognize and bring forth is that we are not body of matter. As one very renowned Nobel laureate, Albert St. Georgi, said, if we are to understand life, we must observe the electron configurations inside of complex molecular structures.
And in people's language, it means what?
In people's language, we could say that we are based on air, water, and light.
Okay.
The photons that flow inside the cells, the cell communication. This is the work of Dr. Bruce Lipton.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
More recently. See, cell communication is conveyed by weak photon emissions. Dr. Korotkov has brought that through non-linearity in mathematics to be able to explore the unseen. So what are we now looking at? We are looking at phases of dispersions of energy, and energy based in light, because in a simple term, when the light inside a person is condensed, we can observe that in various states of the mind. We can observe that in various states of, and we can give it terms like dehydration of system or some clinical pathology that has taken place. But ultimately the light depletes within us, and you look at that in fruits and vegetables when they are going through a phase where they have peaked in their ripeness and they're phasing away. They also change in their color. So there is a depletion of that. And similarly, we are water. We are predominantly water.
Yeah, our body is about 80% water.
That is still, we look at it from a linear perspective where biologically, yes, we are about 80% water. We look at it from the visual world of Dr. Albert Szent-Györgyi, we are electron configurations, and you take that into more slightly grosser state, we end up with water. So, and then as one wonderful Stanford physicist, the dear William Tiller, Dr. William Tiller, who's emeritus professor, he wrote in one of his books, and the foreword, he said, we are liquid crystal-like receptors of subtle energies that have the capacity to receive information from all dimensions when our two hemispheres are synchronized.
Okay, it's like describing a meditation. You know, when somebody's going into deep meditation, this synchronicity inside and the harmony inside happens. So what can we take, you know, from this new science that is emerging today and take into our, you know, day-to-day life? Like on 9th of November, Tsipi did an experiment in Jerusalem with the Lynn McTaggart, and they had an international meditation that people from all over the world, thousands of people, and the people were sitting in Jerusalem and praying together, reciting a sentence, you know, for peace and for lowering the violence in the area. Okay, and so what can you tell me about these experiments with consciousness? How can we implement it and understand our life better through these experiments? What do they prove?
We observe. You have monks in tops of mountaintops, in caves, in desert, who continuously recite fields and fields of vibrations. There are invocations that are mantras. There is one very powerful mantra in a deep Tibetan practice. It is called the Heart Sutra or the Prajna Paramita Sutra. I'll recite it, and I'd like to also convey what it translates to.
Okay.
Gate, gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhi, swaha, om. Right, and this is continuously recited by the monks in deep theta bandwidths of vibration, delta bandwidths of vibration. Gone beyond the senses, gone beyond thought, gone beyond the thought of thoughts. Hail to those who have illumined these pathways for us to cohere to and create a brilliant life here.
Wow.
I know that it's the Gat mantra is His Holiness the Dalai Lama's favorite mantra. in the world.
See, that's the essence of it, is that ultimately we are, as a symbol, metaphorical symbol, when we look at the energy centers, and we see this in deep Kabbalah, we see that in the domain of energy centers that we, in Vedic science, we call chakras. And these are very precisely noted of their interconnectedness to all. We can look at this as fields that now we understand they are toroidal fields. These are dynamical forces, the natural forces of nature. And they prevail in each and every one of us. So when these energy centers are charged, which is why what His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, recites to begin with, is to see this energy center that is inherent in everyone, irrespective of what our structures, belief systems that we can hold on to, that we can attach to. Ultimately, we are the source field.
I can ask a question?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course,
because,
of course.
Yeah, it's a question and also a reminder that you told me before we did the experiment in Jerusalem, you told me that I think it was Maharishi Yogi that said that 8,000 people, when 8,000 people make meditation, it can change the world. You told me.
Yes, yes.
So we were 9,000.
This is, dear Tsipi, this is as a wave that comes and caresses the shore. The next wave comes along, even if there is no wind, there is still a wave.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so that becomes inherent within our systems. And as we clearly enunciate that what is within us is perfection, the outer world can attain perfection when the inner world inspires, guides, molds, and shapes the outer world.
Tell me, what is the inner, how do you call yourself? Inner excellence coach. I'm very curious to know.
See, can any process of life prevail devoid of a center? We just ask that very open question. Devoid of a center, what prevails? Can life thrive devoid of a center?
I don't quite understand what you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take for instance, here we are, the human field.
Okay.
Right, we walk. Every now and then we end up stumbling and falling, literally.
Okay.
That stumble and falling occurs why? Because our center of gravity or our balance has been skewed. So at the center, there is absolute stillness.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
From that stillness, all prevails, all is manifest.
It's very nice what you said, because it's like meditation. When you meditate, you feeling very precise the center of your body. Yeah, that when you feel the center, you have connection to to the heaven and to the earth, and you are centered. When you are in this position, you feel this stability, you feel this, and then your vision is much more wide. I think that in this situation, we can have correlation to what you say.
And it is also a unification. Because when these two hemispheres are synchronized, they naturally trigger, like we take the central nervous system. The central nervous system, that is the shaft from which the flow of energy travels. And we also know now very, very precisely that every energy center is interconnected right from what we would call the root center to the crown center. And of course, in Sanskrit, we have very, very specific vibratory symbols for them. So when the, let's call it the root center is connected to the musculoskeletal system. It has a color, in the color of the rainbow. So it starts with the red, all the way to the violet in the top. So the second center is connected to the lymphatic system, the reproductive system. And the third is connected to, which is yellow, which is the digestive system, all the organs correlated with the digestive system. And this is not just at physiological level. It travels because at fields of what we would call in Sanskrit, koshas, in the energy field, as of dear Dr. Konstantin Korotkov, in bioelectrography, when we look at that information, we call it physical energy body, emotional energy body, psycho-emotional energy body, spiritual body. And they are shaded in a bandwidth of color. In Sanskrit, they are called koshas, from Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha, Vijnanamaya kosha, Anandamaya kosha, and continuing. And all this translated is the fields that determine the interconnectedness to the energy center, which of course one cannot see. You open up a human body and you will not find the chakras there. You will not find an energy center at all. Just like you will not see the acupuncture centers and the energy that prevails and flows through them.
So when you're talking about inner, sorry that I interrupted you, I just want to understand, because I want this, you know, I want people to understand what you're saying in basic language. When you're saying inner excellence, you mean that you are, when someone is connected to his source, to his inner core, to his inner energy body structure, this is the inner excellence that then radiates outside. This is what you mean?
Then the entire field, when we talk of inner excellence, the entire system resonates in a harmony, and what we would call a state of dynamic harmony. It's resonant in stillness. See, there was experiments during the 4th and 5th standards growing up here. Our teachers, it was a school where 2 ladies started this school, and they used to create situations, and where they got all, and it was only like 15 students because the school had just started with these 2 ladies. It's called Vidya Mandir. Vidya is knowledge, wisdom. Mandir is a center for the transmission of knowledge and wisdom through very practical approaches. So they used to create a slight, like a chaotic state among all the students, and then all of a sudden they used to ring the bell. And the moment they rang the bell, instantaneously everybody stopped to wonder, where's that bell? What's that mean? And the message conveyed is, be still in that instantaneous moment. Mm-hmm. When we refer this predating even during the time of the Buddha, the monks used to travel across these terrains from all across Bharat through the Hindu Kush mountains, and they just traveled with the bell. And when they walked or passed through a village, the moment the inhabitants of the village heard the resonance of the bell, they prostrated to the ground till the harmonic could no longer be heard in the audible range. So no matter what they were doing, whether they were discussing, talking, playing, dancing, arguing, any of those, they would stop, prostrate to the ground, and once the resonance was no longer in the audible area, well, they all got up and continued or decided if there was anarchy, do we continue with anarchy or do we revisit it? See, these interconnectedness, these patterns of interconnectedness is where we have been disconnected from, systematically through our education. And hence we've got to describe this, which is an inherent quality in each and every one of us. No one is exempt of it.
And how is it related? Can you relate it to us now? We are not monks that live in the mountains. We live here in the middle of the city, and we have our you know, problems and things that we have to do, and obligations and family and children. How does this relate to our everyday life? How can we live more joyfully, more calmly, more, you know, interconnected in harmony with other people, with our neighbors, with our spouses, with our children? How does this knowledge help us?
So it begins with very practical approach. And that very, very practical approach can start with very simple undertakings. See, let's take this that can be then utilized all over the planet. And of course, the great contributors were folks like dear Masaru Emoto-san, who did a beautiful experiment with 3 beakers of water. That explains everything. But now let's look at how do we do this at a practical level?
Yes.
So we talk about the nature of mind, and we put our hands and say, this is the mind.
Yes.
So we have a little joke over here that says there's a monkey of the mind. And this monkey of the mind has a heyday when there is always disturbance.
Noises from inside, noises from outside, all the time. In Hebrew, it's called balagan, you know, inside. A mess. Balagan. Chaos.
So let's take this constant noise, right? There is this activity that is going on. And how do we then observe it? The first step is in the observation, no? So this is foundational, which is then initiated in schools. We can't even say they are taught in schools. They are initiated in schools because this is foundational towards education. Education is if it is not guided towards full enlightenment, then we need to steer education so that it evokes that the word enlightenment is not something that one has to aspire to. It's already inherent in all of us. All we need to do is filter the noise from us. And the moment that to filter the noise, we need to be still. So how do we still the mind? A simple example of that is water. We look at a body of water. And so let's take the ocean. The winds come, the ocean is turbulent, it's very choppy. And let's take that, the same process as the nature of mind. If the mind is choppy, and you can say, how do we stop thought? How do we stop the mind from evoking a thought when there is so much stuff that is going on? And as you said, we carry a lot of baggage, we carry a lot of load. And it's not that we carry baggage, this is the dynamic of life itself. We can immerse ourselves into life, but like the lotus, be unaffected by it. And these are not huge concepts or spiritual concepts. They are foundation to education. And how do we
stop it?
How do we cultivate it? Forget stopping. The moment we try to stop, there's always pressure, there's always conflict. That will never cease.
Okay.
The balagan, what she said, or the thoughts that coming and going in our mind, it's something that you cannot stop. What you can do is just not to identify with it. That's what you can do. So they're coming and going, but but the coming and going. You don't have to say it's me. You don't have to identify with all this balagan, with all this thought. Yeah.
No, that we can observe it. So here was very, very simple guidelines that Krishna was initiated at an early formative period of life. Is that when you are in a supine position at night, so we'll take a little cycle. So at night, just close your eyes, take a nice breath in, just give yourself a nice little flush with your breath, in breath, outside, and then just review what events transpired through the course of the day from the field of the five senses.
Yeah.
What was did you hear a bird this morning? What was the harmonic of the bird? Did you see the flower? What was the color of the flower? Did it have dewdrops in it?
No, you were all the time in your mind.
Now, that's the procedure. See, that's the procedure, because we've got to first begin to still the mind. So to still the mind, we've got all these five senses that are constantly engaging us. So let's look at them like a series of horses, 5 horses, and you're riding a chariot. And if each one, and if each one of these, Siri suddenly took off here.
Yeah, this is the noise.
That's the noise. So if each one of these horses, like the senses, took off, where is their synchronicity? So ultimately, we begin to synchronize the various senses. But to synchronize the senses, let's observe and be attentive to the 5 senses and be observant of them. So when you are lying down, we may not have, and we don't need to go into the detail, you're literally using this as a canvas, so as a painter, and you are giving it a nice spread of observation. Now, that's fine. And then, here you are, you see yourself lying down on your bed, in your home, or apartment, or a hut, or out in the open sky, and observe the nature of the terrain around you, which means now you are utilizing the visual, the imaginative space. So that imaginative space, now you go across, maybe if you have some land, if you're living in a forest, the forests around you, the desert around you, or the apartments around you, no matter. And then you look at this and you see this now from the whole country. And then you look at it from the world. And then you see this in the alignment to the solar system. And then you see this in the alignment to the Milky Way. And you continue on, and then where do you see yourself? A little particle. Khalil Gibran said this so elegantly: for what are men better than sheep and goats? For a person who looks down from the windows of the Milky Way.
Mm. Mm.
So it's like you take your point of view to a higher level, to a higher sight of what is going on.
So you see your interconnectedness. And there you are, no longer a sense of identity, but a little dot. But that little dot is like a twinkle of a star. Because in one of the Upanishads, called the Chandogya Upanishad, there is a passage that conveys there is a light that shines brighter than all the earth, than all the stars and all the heavens. And that's the light that shines in the diamond that resides in the lotus of the heart. Every one of us is gifted with that. We have it. All we have to do now is align so that these little steps, as the way was transmitted to Krishna in his formative period, then when you first wake, when you awake, you give thanks and gratitude. Voila! I can see, I can hear all these wonderful faculties, and you give thanks. You give thanks to a supreme creator, to the source field. We can give any name we want. But it is a source of life, of which we are also being provided with. And we have been designed very, very specifically. So now, right, I know you wanted to share something.
No, I wanted to know, okay, so if I understand that I am interconnected and I am a speck in this whole wide universe, but inside me there is this diamond, there is this, gift that I have to give and share with the world. That makes me more calm. That makes me more in peace.
Now we are touching that surface. You awaken the heart, you awaken the dormant soul. Dear Gandhiji wrote that during his contemplations. So he said very specifically in this contemplation, in man, by gender, reason quickens and guides the feeling. In a brute, the soul lies dormant. Awaken the heart, you awaken the dormant soul. So what did we do when dear Tsipi and dear Lynn McTaggart initiated this Mideast Peace Initiative? That, of course, is the globe is a participant, the whole universe is a participant, really.
Mm-hmm.
It is awakening of heart.
Yeah,
because
Lynn talked about the intention that, when lots of minds intend together for a purpose, for a certain cause, then we can influence and change the reality from war to peace, from fighting all the time to more cooperating together. This is what I mean, that I want the practicality of it, because, okay, I'm God, I'm a diamond, how can I use it in everyday life?
So we look at it in from very, very clear direction. Practical realm is number one. What do we see that has the arena of disempowerment in humankind, disempowerment of humanity? So first step is that everyone should recognize their self-worth. Everyone should recognize that they are valuable. They have no one is any less or superior than anybody else.
That each one of us has his own role, his own gift to give, and there is no competition. This is what you mean, but when you say we're all interconnected, there is one field that we are all connected to it. So if something happens in India or in Africa, it affects me here in Israel, although it's far away from me.
That which is coming to the practical side of how can humankind be gloriously benefited by practices that integrate every moment of life. It is not something that we do for half an hour a day, or no, it is integrated. Inner excellence doesn't come and go. Inner excellence is our inherent nature. Now, to evoke it, to nurture it, to cultivate it, is exactly as what a farmer does when he or she goes out to the fields, what a spider does when it weaves a web. It does it repeatedly, continuously. So for us, we start by what dear Lynn shared. What is that intention? What is guiding us? What is driving us? Why do we sit and go to a synagogue, go to a mosque, go to a temple, go to the jungles along with the shamans? It is to connect. Then that connection comes from a sense of peace. And that peace cannot occur if it is not guided from the inside. Well, that's the foundation of inner excellence that is seeded right at the onset, right at the onset. And of course, now we know that we have a very, let's call it a functionally dysfunctional humanity.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your experiments with Professor Korotkov and the biowell equipment. What are you doing with this equipment? Can you tell me, share with me an interesting experiment that you did and that surprised you? That the consequences surprised you?
So there is one, I appreciate the sweetness of your question to me, or even what you just transmitted. One aspect that has been very, very clear is be detached from everything that you do. In other words, be completely clear. Be water, clear water, that nothing can influence it except that which absorbs and brings together the essences that foster life, right? That's the foundation. So what was, if I were to hone to some very, very specific areas, I will share one insight. That was about 2001. That was a precursor to the biowell. The technology is the same because it was dear Dr. Korotkov, through whose vision, through whose heart this permeated, and his deep interconnectedness. But I want to share, before I even begin to share one of those very notable aspects within the region of bioelectrography and then the biowell, is my first meeting with dear Konstantin. It was in Chennai in the 90s. And both of us were speakers at an international pranic healing conference where dear Master Choa was present. So when we connected, dear Konstantin had brought his technology out into the world, and of course everybody here at the Congress, there must have been about 600-800 people. They were thrilled because they could see chakras, and Konstantin couldn't have a line enough that was going up to the podium. Right? Krishna's talk was on plants, essential oils, and the interconnected of plants to tune oneself towards that vibratory perfection that is inherent within us, where the stillness of the eternal song resides. Right? Okay. So then, and it was through essential oils. So I had gone, and so when the two of us met, I asked Konstantin, what inspired you to bring this technology and science to the planet? And he looked at me with an eye that was not only like a little child that had just emerged onto the planet, but also with one that looked very deeply into you to see where is the source from where this question is coming from. And he said to me, when you awake to the realization that the most powerful force of all the universe is love, you are connected and guided. Well, that has fostered our interconnectedness since then. And that deep interrelationship, he is not only my soul brother, but he is one with whom there is a constant melding of the intuitive, the intellect and intelligence coming together.
Yeah, well, you know, they say that great minds think alike. So you're in the same vibration.
So utilizing, and to me, when I saw this, this is utilized for raising of collective consciousness that all humankind can benefit from, with due diligence. So what would be some of the notable arenas? One of the notable arenas was as recent as yesterday, to going back in the early beginnings of when the technology was surfaced out to the world, where I was in outside of Boston, in a place called Westwood, Massachusetts, invited to be there at an integrative holistic medical center that was being presided by a Lakota medicine man. And it also had collaboration with the Harvard Medical School. So there, after we had done our ceremonies, there was a gentleman to come and meet with me to have a private reading, let's call it a consultation. And the technology is the science, and the software is the evolution of what we see today with the biobell. So we looked at the energy field, gathered data from all the 10 fingers. We looked at the energy field and then his chakras. So all the chakras were very strongly aligned. And I asked him, I said, here, when I look at the energy field, I see some particular areas, and I began to describe those particular areas. And then I asked, I said, I'm inclined to ask you this question, but you are not inclined to, if you are not inclined to answer this, that is perfectly understandable. It's going to be a very personal question. And I asked him that personal question. And when I asked him that, I said, when was the last time you hugged your wife? He looked at me with an eye that was penetrating and almost like chopping me off. But then he got up from the chair and said, Krishna, may I hug you? And what transpired from there was a sizable contribution to a school where his niece and nephew were going to school, and they were young during that time. So that sizable contribution to humanity, to the world in which he was interfacing, and he had a large investment banking firm. To a more recent one was a executive at a big company here in Bangalore who was ailing from severe sciatic pain, migraine headaches over many, many years, and had all kinds of tests done. And this was with the BioWell, and did every test, went to as many specialists as possible, and still she meditates, she does yoga, but this continues to persist. So I said to her, you see, number one, here are some of the various pathways of where energy flow is interrupted. And if energy flow is interrupted and the chakras, the energy centers are strewn all over the charts, what is the nature of energy flow? It's not chaotic, it's not choppy, it's very smooth, it's harmonic. So that harmonic is misplaced inside of you. And also, here are some of the factors that are creating that displacement. So I said, why don't we tune this and come back to the very principle that we are gifted with, which is breath.
Which
the
is
number
what?
of breath, our breathing.
To breathe, okay.
The number of breaths we take per minute not only determines the years that we inhabit on the planet, but it also responds to the dynamism and how you are able to create virtual energy from the field of energy that resides around us. So the smaller the number of in-breath cycles is, the higher the energy potential, and the more increased the number of breaths is when we create more chaos inside the system. So I shared with her a simple exercise that was passed on to me by a very high level, a yogi, a rishi here living here in a beautiful place, who goes out and shares this with CEOs of companies in Singapore. He teaches them a 1-minute breathing cycle. And now we've got a very large section of the New York Times business section who do this before they start their meetings, both North and South America. A 1-minute breathing.
Can you teach us?
With induction of light, or certainly with induction of light into the entire field. And after I guided her along the process, and I had her breathing a particular blend of essential oils that I had with me, which this guy creates. And 20 minutes later, because you always want that information to settle inside of you, she said, my goodness, there was a kind of awakening that took place inside of her, or I would say a rebirthing that took place, is that my sciatic pain has gone, my migraine headache doesn't exist, and all my backache is relieved, and I feel light.
Wow. Just by this breathing and essential oils that you gave her?
Well, let's say the breathing, the essential oils are essentially to open the gateways, because there is very high level of informational content when we look at a simple bottle of oil. I mean, inside a bottle, I usually share this, is a genie, and you can make a wish.
Yeah, I saw in your website that you have all kinds of essentials oils for all kinds, for joy, for calmness, for enlightenment. So each one is specific to give you something else.
Each one of them has come through contemplative states. Since Krishna is being, wonderfully being tossed around along the planet. And so and you interact with populations of beings. So when I get back to Taos is usually my cave. There is contemplations, and in this contemplations, it is of what is the level of information, energetic information that one has observed. And then you connect to the source field and say, guide me to bring forth the plants that are appropriate in this bell curve of evolution. See, it all comes back to that bell curve of evolution, because education is no other than for the supreme light within us to shine. We call it enlightenment. And that's for everyone. And
yes,
the processes that can evoke this doesn't occur from an external source. It has to be sought from internally within. Which means to say that if this lovely being, this corporate accountant, doesn't continue with the practice, well, it can raise the energy in the beginning and make one feel, oh, this is wonderful, wow, wow. This is not about wow. It's about the doing. Exactly as the spider weaves the web from its inherent internal saliva, that is even stronger than steel. Similarly, our discipline to these inherent functions are to continue. So when we tune ourselves with the breath and with plant energies, as with essential oils, it naturally begins to cohere, which means that we also become very sensitive. And sensitivity is being present and awake in every moment. Even though we are here, we are observing each other. We are also observant of our presence collectively. See, that is the seat of education. And this can be fostered the closer we are to nature. So even in homes, apartment complexes, if you have a water body that flows by little waterfalls, like little fountains, have plants in the house, See that you have, and of course, these are all tiny little steps that come along the way. And we must also then evoke sensitivity. And what is sensitivity? Is the level of noise that we either bring in voluntarily, involuntarily into our systems. These require to be observed. Through observation is a filter. So the doing becomes the solution. We can talk for millennia. It's not going to do any bit of good.
Yes. So can you tell me, like, when I wake up in the morning, when you wake, tell me your day practice that you do. You have like a practice in the morning, a practice in the night. You told me before you go to sleep, and there are things that you do in the middle of the day also to stay tuned, to be in this holy place, to be in this center. Because it's awareness. It's doing the awareness work all the time. This is what you're saying, actually.
Yes. See, does the sun, a great sun, it shines, irrespective, to everyone, in the alignment of what we define as a bell curve. To awaken, align with light, and the rest will follow.
Mm. But not everybody wants, to make this work. That's the point.
See,
the sun is for everybody, but not everybody wants to, to stay still, to get rid of the noise. Yeah.
I shared one very important moment that was in the early 2000s. I was in Sarasota, Florida, conducting a seminar, a retreat over there. And they were folks from the corporate world. At that time, today we can call them the HR department. And they were corporate. They took care of folks who were on the upper echelons of organizations, corporate trainers. So they were some of our participants, and one of them sought to have a personal moment with me in a personal consultation with the technology of bioelectrography, the GDV, the BioWell. And after looking at the analytics of what was observed, I said, come, let's take a walk to nature. So we walked out of the room, and there was lovely trees that were growing. And I said to her, I said, here, let's just take a moment and just be absolutely still. And in that stillness, let us just observe naturally, without observation, the field of the five senses, the wind coming and caressing the system, the aromatic information that is in the air, the vitality of the breath, the observation of colors, right? And the feeling of the land. All this. And I said, just put your hand like this over the tree and absorb the energetics that are flowing, because here is a tree that defies the laws of gravity, because it absorbs water from its roots, and then up and up and up and up and up and up and up it goes. And it is all pure energy, pure vital energy. We can call it prana here in Sanskrit, chi, right? So all this. And our hands, we transmit information. You see, what did we gather from the 10 fingers? We gathered the level of light that flowed from the fingers. So put your palm around the tree so that, and just be, no thoughts, just be one with the tree. Empty space, empty space. She began to do it, and then she backed out and said, no, I can't do it. I'm scared. So I said, then why look into it. Just go right into what is it that creates that dispersion of thought, that you are uncomfortable with. Observe it so that you're no longer feeding. Because if we feed such thoughts, what do? Whether it's another species that begins to eat, it will continue eating and taking that energy because that's what you are feeding. The thoughts we think is the world we create. True?
Yeah.
Yes.
Even more.
We have to finish because time is up. I just wanted to, Krishna, to ask you if you have, one message that you want to transfer through this program, to this opportunity,
yes,
to people here in Israel or whoever watches this show now or later, what would it be?
See, for a moment, remove yourself from time and space and become a universe unto yourself. We are gifted with 30 trillion cells. That's more than the number of stars in the entire Milky Way and more. Each and every one. So in the morning, as we didn't get to talk about the practices, but one among them is put your palms like this, cupping it as though you are holding a ball.
Like this?
Like as though you are holding a ball, and bring it towards your heart center.
Okay.
And then gradually just feel and the energetics of the ball, and that's the planet that we call the beautiful blue planet, with all its inhabitants. And you're placing it right above your heart center, and you are nurturing it, and you are nurturing all, including yourself, the 30 trillion cells, all the inhabitants of the planet. And if each one of us did this, it could be 1 second to 60 seconds, and it could continue on. This simple practice, and then transferring blue light to here, blue light to nurture, blue-green light. And then like this, we begin to naturally create an inner harmony. When there is inner harmony, these two hemispheres get synchronized naturally, which is what we see in the science of the biowell and the technology of bioelectrography. So when these two hemispheres are naturally aligned, naturally synchronized, everyone benefits, no? So if there is that take-home practice, let's all begin.
To nurture the world. So it's also the intention, thinking about the world, nurturing the world, sending it light, blue light, as you say.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, be delighted to. But you can for dear Orly.
Yeah, no, it's a very simple question. What is the picture behind you?
Oh, this is a wonderful casa in the island of Minorca, of very, very dear friends of ours. And that Paula, also my dear companion, painter. Yeah. She's the painter. She's an artist. Paula is an artist. And so this is her piece from the 80s.
But you choose to put it behind you, and I saw it, also after the meditation, when you gave you said not much, but you said about the results of the experiment, you were in this place. So it's very interesting why you put this, it's so clean, the picture, and this house behind you, it's very nice. Why did you put it?
And also it is very convenient because the television screen is on the wall, and I've connected the laptop to the TV screen so I can see the big picture.
So, Dr. Krishna Madappa, we have to finish and close this practical inspiration show. So I want to really thank you very much. Namaste for this wonderful interview. And hopefully we'll see you here in Israel also.
My daughter loves Israel. Yes, she went.
You haven't been here yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not you. Well, we invite you to come.
Thank you. And one, I know that dear Krishna literally dominated all the time. So that's my apologies.
It's okay. So thank you very much, Krishna. Thank you very much, Tsipi Raz. I hope that your movie will come out this year and will do great service to this world and to humanity. So thank you very much, and we'll see you.
And dear Tsipi,
yeah,
I want to really have great thanks and gratitude to you for launching your deep inspiration to the next phase, because that is the dynamism of going forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and I hope to speak with you, to make the analysis of the experiment, and I'll be in touch.
So certainly, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Shalom to all.
Shalom. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.